marks the beginning of a very important process to our country in the reconstitution of a new IEBC Commission. Your Excellency, let me take this opportunity to assure you and the country that all the other 8 bills that emanated from the NADCO report are in process in both houses. We had divided the bills between the 2 houses of Parliament, and I want to give all of you assurances of both houses that we shall expedite in the processing of these bills with top priority. Your Excellency, in conclusion, let me just say that this assent of this bill not only marks a hallmark in our nation's endeavor to reconstitute a new IEBC, but also buttresses the importance of dialogue in our country, because these bills have emanated from a process where we all came together as a country to dialogue, and through dialogue we've been able to surmount most of the challenges that faced our country at the time we came together as NADCO. And I am certain, Your Excellency, even now and moving forward, this signifies that new move that through dialogue we can talk to each other and be able to surmount all the challenges that bedevil our country. With those few remarks, Your Excellency, allow me to invite my co-chair, our former Vice President who co-chaired with me the NADCO process, to give his brief remarks.
Mr. President, the Honorable William Samoei Arap Ruto, Prime Minister Raila Odinga, both co-principals of the NADCO process, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't find it easy to come in here this morning for various reasons, one of which was the barricading of the route to KICC. But I must thank the organizers for having brought it to KICC, because if it was a State House, Mr. President, it would even have been a little harder. The reason is simple. Our country is at a crossroads. My colleague, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, has highlighted that both of you asked us to undertake the process of NADCO following the 2023 enactment of the finance bill and the riots that took place, where we lost people, 75 of them, property was destroyed, and the country was in a state of a shock. We undertook that responsibility with gusto, and we are very open-minded. As Azimio la Umoja One Kenya, our number one topic was the high cost of living. But Kimani and the team on Kenya Kwanza convinced us that it was a government responsibility and the opposition had nothing to do with discussing the high cost of living. I hope that in the light of recent developments, my friend Kimani would have revised that thought. Because again, 2024, Finance Act and the riots, and again we have lost 41 young Kenyans. This time they came in the form of Gen Z, but they are Kenyans. They have a right to belong. In fact, they are carrying the national flags. They have done it better than we did when some of us nearly got killed. Mr. President, I want to urge that we look at our country afresh. There's no way the space has been opened by Gen Z. I wish we had moved with speed. It has taken inordinate delay to get to where we are today, to get the first product out of NADCO. And I'm not so sure, my friend Kimani, whether it is expected of us to even fast track the other 8. They have to be juxtaposed by the reality of the country and this new revolt. If we are not careful, all of us will get thrown out by the Gen Zs, because they say we have come of age. You say that we are leaders of tomorrow, we are leaders now. We can't wish them away. Therefore, I want to urge that we now look at the whole thing. For example, we have now set up the process of nominating new commissioners. We made it very clear that both you, Mr. President, Mr. Raila Odinga, the Prime Minister, will have to agree on, perhaps most importantly, on who becomes the chair of the new IEBC. That principle of consultation was inbuilt, and I thank my colleagues because we didn't have to struggle much to agree. But now is the time. The country is at a crossroads. Can we, for a beginning, even in order to bring the country to normalcy, can you, Mr. President, order the Inspector General of Police, if he doesn't resign, can he remove the police from the streets? Can the army get out of our streets and back to the barracks? I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, former Vice President. I now have the honor to invite the former Prime Minister, Your Excellency, Honorable Raila Odinga, to give his remarks, and thereafter invite His Excellency the President.
Your Excellency, my brother President William Samoei Ruto, all distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are here this morning, we have come here today for a very solemn occasion. And I'm happy that this function has been arranged to take place here at KICC. As my colleague Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka said, we are at a crossroads as a country. And times like this requires leadership, the country to move forward. What we are doing today is a culmination of a process that began sometime last year when President Olusegun Obasanjo came to mediate and the conflict that was raging on at that time. We agreed when we sat together, myself and Brother William Ruto, that we would follow the route of dialogue. And that is the reason why NADCO was set up. NADCO then proceeded to dialogue and ended up with a very voluminous report which has contained some very fundamental recommendations. This bill that has now been signed into the law today is just one of those. But the NADCO report contains very many issues which are at the heart of the people of Kenya today. If you see the issues which are being raised by our youth, most of them are actually contained in the NADCO report. But if this NADCO report is implemented fully, you'll be able to address all those issues which these young people are raising. We are, as I've said, at a very, very crucial juncture in the history of our country. Our country has moved forward. There have been highs and lows in our history of 61 years. We needed to move forward. And I want to say, at this moment in time, my brother, that we require now a wider engagement so that people have an opportunity to vomit all that is there in the chest, in order that we can be able to find a way forward. I therefore want to support the proposal of my brother Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka that we have this conversation. It may not take more than 2 weeks, but it brings all the stakeholders together. Today, our society is fairly stratified. Nearly 70% of our population is below the age of 35, the youth. If you say that between 35 and 18 constitute about 40%, we need that 40% to be present when this dialogue is taking place. And then the rest can fill the rest. And then we just talk about the Kenya we want. The Kenya we want convention. Out of that will come out recommendations that will help us to resolve this issue once and for all. And that will be my proposal, Your Excellency. I think that Kenya deserves better. The issues of employment, the issues of discrimination, the issues of corruption, the issues of gender, and so on, are issues that need to be addressed in a wider forum. I think that it is possible to do. It is possible if there is a will to do it. And then here again, the IBC is a very important institution. It's not the first time we have had issues with IBC. If we find a solution to this issue of IBC, it will be on the way to resolving very many issues in our country. You remember in the last elections, the whole world was stunned when we saw an electoral commission that was completely divided. Some saying one thing, others saying one thing. You may be happy that, the other group ruled in my favor. But what example are we showing the world as a country? That in the process of a very important exercise, the commission is divided. Nobody knows whom to believe up to today. It is a shame on us. And we are sure that we have got men and women here in this country who can actually do a better job. And that will help to unify this country. Last year, we lost 75 precious lives. This year we lost another 40 lives. To say nothing about those who have been wounded, who have been hurt. We must prevent this from happening in our country. We should not allow this to continue happening cyclically. Let us find a lasting solution to this problem. We are ready to engage so that we find a solution to this problem. As Azimio of Kenya. With those many remarks, Your Excellency, now may I have the pleasure to invite my brother, President William Ruto, to address you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think before I make, just hold on, before I make some remarks, I have listened very carefully to the leaders who have spoken, and each one of them has spoken passionately about the future of our country, as it should be. But let me ask my deputy to make a few remarks so that I can conclude. Mr. Deputy President.
Your Excellency, our President, Dr. William Ruto, Your Excellency, the former Prime Minister, Your Excellency, the former Vice President, the leadership of our two houses, members of the executive, and the press. Your Excellency, this is a great morning for this country because the constitution of the IBC is a great step for our democracy. I want to thank you for the leadership that you have accorded this country in difficult times, and you are acceding to have the report that was bipartisan is a great step in the right direction in this country. In the situation we are in, we want to call upon the people of Kenya that violence begets violence. Now that the President has accepted to have a discussion with our young population, with our leaders, we call upon the people of Kenya to give dialogue a chance, to give consultation a chance, get off the streets, stay away from destruction of property, because Kenya is greater than all of us. And I think, Your Excellency, you have the capacity to lead us in that direction where there is consultation and all Kenyans are able to agree on the way forward. With those few remarks, it is my duty to ask Your Excellency to address the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy President. Your Excellencies, Mr. Vice President, former Prime Minister, former Vice President, the two speakers of our National Assembly and Senate, leaders of majority, fellow leaders present here. Welcome to this occasion. The National Dialogue Committee, established last year, resulted from the closing of ranks across the political divide to forge consensus on a number of priority national issues, including the reconstitution of the IEBC. Today's assent of the IEBC Amendment Bill therefore marks a significant step in the actualization of one of the recommendations of NADCO and testifies to our country's ability to navigate difficult, complex, and sometimes divisive issues that could undermine our national cohesion, undermine our stability and security if we leave it unattended. The signing of this bill paves way for the establishment of the selection panel for the appointment of IEBC commissioners. The IEBC remains a cornerstone of our democracy, responsible for overseeing regular elections at various levels, and on the overall, ensuring that our electoral cycle is managed transparently and administered in an impartial, neutral, efficient, accurate, and accountable manner. I concur with leaders who have said there must be professionalism and integrity as part of the cardinal principles of the men and women who will be charged with the responsibility of overseeing our elections. The spirit of NADCO is the spirit of unity, bipartisanship, and consensus building, values which have helped our nation overcome its most challenging moments. Even as I assent to this bill, I look forward to supporting and facilitating any other outputs of the national consensus that was NADCO to ensure that Kenya moves forward and with as many hands on deck as is possible. The leadership of Parliament, both on the majority and minority sides, have heard what the leaders here have said, and they should proceed with dispatch and expedite the other recommendations that are contained in the NADCO report and process the necessary bills and interventions that are necessary for us to actualize the output of that report. Beyond NADCO, we are currently engaged in discussions as a country about our economy. As we know, the country has faced a series of economic shocks, including COVID-19 pandemic, globally high interest rates, and devastating droughts and floods, events which have impacted negatively on our economy and our capacity to secure resources for development and to also meet our debt service obligations. In the last 2 years, we have put in our best efforts to mobilize domestic and external resources to accelerate our economic program, pull the country back from the danger of debt distress, and set us on a path of economic transformation. These efforts have strengthened the Kenya shilling, reduced fuel prices at the pump, and lowered the cost of living, including the cost of essential household commodities. This year, my administration presented revenue-raising measures through the Finance Bill 2024, which were aimed at not only consolidating the economic recovery program, but also propelling the country to the next phase of investing in key social and economic infrastructure projects to advance our development agenda and reduce on our debt burden. However, many voices expressed disapproval of these proposals, leading me to drop the bill and terminate the process. It therefore means that apart from the people of Kenya asking us to consider alternative means of raising revenue, which I agree with, there is general consensus that the country requires to confront and address long-standing priority national issues, including national debt, public expenditure, and anti-corruption measures, so as to release resources for creating opportunities, creating jobs, and creating wealth. As a way of charting the future from the current situation we are facing, I welcome all the leaders here, and I have heard what they have said this morning, and all other stakeholders working together for us to address the current economic situation through a broad-based political arrangement and to rally the country forward, as has been said by the former Prime Minister. And therefore, we have yet another opportunity as a country, Kenya being the resilient people we always are, to come together and figure out the future of our country in a manner that makes sure that we address the existential challenges and threats that face our nation. And that's the reason why I set up a committee to work and audit our debt, for us to interrogate our expenditure, and for us to work on anti-corruption. I want to encourage Parliament to expedite the conflict of interest bill that will support our anti-corruption measures, especially in relation to public officers. And I am hopeful that these are some of the conversations that we will be engaged in going forward. I am very confident that, as always, Kenya knows how to pull together, and leaders know how to come together in the best interest, not of individuals, not of parties, but the collective body of the Kenyan people. And I look forward to working with leaders, as I have said, going forward on a broad-based political mechanism that will see us steer the country to the future. Thank you very much to all the leaders here. Asanteni sana to the people of Kenya. I wish you well, and God bless our great country. Asante. Maybe